Well, here we are again, the morning after. No, not that kind of morning after. This bill is a bit harder to swallow. Now, the Ondo Primaries elections for the APC did not fail to disappoint, did they? Yesterday's Sunshine State showdown left us all wondering if the stereotypes for Nigerian politics will ever change, as Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa seems to lead the pack, but not without a chorus of disapproving views from other governorship aspirants. Now, with murmurs of calls for the cancellation of the elections, some claim that voting materials were as scarce as humility in a Nigerian politician. But hey, in a world of Nigerian politics, intrigue and drama are as common as jollof rice in a Nigerian party. And who needs Nigerian TV or reality TV when you have Nigerian politics? And speaking of cool tricks, while the Ondo primaries may have been chaotic, Nigerian chess player Tunde Onakoya has shown the world that Nigerians can excel in more than just politics. Tunde recently set a new Guinness World Record for the longest marathon chess game while raising funds for education for African children across the world. I mean, you'd agree that in the case of Guinness records, it's like as if Nigerians are saying, move over world, we're taking the Guinness Book of World Records one marathon, or is it one cookathon at a time? Remember that one? Well, it's hearty congratulations to him all around for going over 58 hours. And not even the Nigerian power grid can hold out that long. And yes, I said it, with millions left in the dark again only at the start of last week in a country that promised 20 hours of power to high-paying Band-Aid customers. Where's the lie there? As generators roared to life across the country, one thing became clear. In Nigeria, the only thing more unreliable than the national grid is the promise of 20-hour power. It might never happen, and I hate to be the one to bring it to you. But hey, enough about sad news, power situations and politics and all of that. Let's move on to some good news as we raise our glasses in celebration of the Naira's performance against the dollar last week. But hey, before you go all out celebrating your newfound wealth, remember to keep it classy. After all, the EFCC is still on the prowl, watching to see, well, who treats the legal tender with bad repute. So, tell you what. Let's raise our glasses. Don't worry, this one is just water. And let's say, here's to the stronger Naira while keeping things cool, calm, and collected. Cheers to financial responsibility, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the Sunday edition of Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino, and that beautiful lady over there is my co-host, Judith Abiti. There you go. It's great to have you guys. Stay tuned. Welcome once again as we start our Sunday edition. We'll be back with the papers.
And you're welcome back. It was a very interesting conversation here on Breakfast Extra on News Central yesterday as we're joined in the studio by Ilo Azino and Bimpe Akinfujimi to discuss the extent of the EFCC crackdown on Naira abusers and the effect on the Nigerian party culture.
Yes, indeed. Now, in furtherance to that, we took to the streets to test the pulse of the everyday Nigerian to ask what they thought of the ruling of the court in some recent cases or sentences of guilty parties. Now, here's what we found out.
I kind of support that the Naira should not be abused by anyone. But the point is that the punishment does not fit the crime. The way I see it, I think it's too much of the punishment is too much. It should just be like a community service that the person should be given, not jail sentence.
Personally, at first, I had a little issue about it, but I think the government are doing a very good job because if we're being truthful to ourselves, there has been a lot of Naira abuse. And I think it's not just now, it started a long time ago. And them creating the awareness now will make people, more conscious and they will do the right thing actually. It's actually not good. Naira abuse should be scrapped. It shouldn't even occur at all because when we have our pounds, our dollars, we carry it like egg, you get. So why would you not treat yours like it's nothing?
I think the policy is both good and bad actually because it is what we see, we know. What about those we don't know? So, but I think the most of all, we should just respect our currency.
We are going above our boundary. For seeing us spending money lavishly in society, in the club, in the marriage and the ceremony, even common birthday, and folding the money and matching the money and pouring wines to the money. We have to what they call respect to Naira. We must make sure we put a respect to that legitimate to our country, that Nigeria, anyone that schools money, tell him it's not a lawful.
Actually, I feel it's a bad influence on the youth because, okay, imagine me, someone like a young guy like me seeing those kind of videos, and I would want to do something really crazy, you know, to be at that stage, you know, in life. And I think I don't think it's actually good.
And these people that are spending money, they are oppressed people in outside. For me, I really love it.
It's a very harsh decision. So if you want to start something, you start it by a little bit. It's not supposed to be hard to the citizen like that. So my own view is that they should be soft about it. You can't just come and be, you know, it's not an easy thing to just stop it like that. It's not, so we cannot hold so like me now, if I have a 500 naira note, I can't just, I have to fold it in my pocket now. How do you want me to do it?
Now, to kick off with the Sunday edition here for Breakfast Extra, let's dive into the front pages of the dailies this morning and give you a glimpse of not just, well, some, but more of the dailies than you're used to this morning. First off, let's start with the Daily Trust newspaper. Judith, shall we?
Oh, yes, indeed. Let's get started with the Daily Trust on Sunday. Now, the very first headline that jumps at you is from page 4, and it says that bandits kill 6 soldiers, abduct captain in Niger. Military silent, all hands on deck to arrest perpetrators, and that's from the state government there. I can find the story on page 4. And on page 19, you're going to find the story, Constitution Amendment, ACF, 16 others prepare North's position. Now, when you go down there on page 25, more hurdles as Ganduje moves to weather storms in APC. You can find that on page 25 of the Daily Trust Sunday. On page 4, Bureau pit collapses, kills 7 Almajiri in Kebbi State. Away from that now, Tinubu presidency, Choroga, and the 15.6 trillion naira highway controversy, and that's on page 5 and 6 of the Daily Trust. At the very bottom there, you're going to find violence, protests mar on Ondo APC governorship primary, and that's on page 19. A bit of heads up for you that we're going to be speaking to a correspondent from Ondo there who was live at the APC primaries to give us more updates. And away from that, on page 8, you find issues as NIMC plans fresh ID cards. It's not a new project. Find that on page 8. And lastly, on page 7 of the Daily Trust, you see the headline, 19 die, 49 injured in Kaduna Ogun road accidents.
Very interesting. Waiting to see what's going to come up this week regarding these headlines, especially with the Chogari, what you call it now, for the road constructions.
Yes, absolutely.
Biggest caliber one.
Let's see what.
Now let's talk about the Daily Independence, Sunday Independence. Here we have these headlines here. Minimal impact of Naira rebound. Inflation casts doubts on Nigeria's economic health. Well, I think I spoke too soon in my monologue earlier then. The CNG condemns high prices of goods amid Naira appreciation. Holistic economic development plan needed, says Ikechukwu. And at the top for the Sunday Independence, Yoruba Movement writes, Tinubu seeks peaceful exit from Nigeria on page 7. On page 6, Edo 2024, Ighodalo meets Oyegun, Igbenedion, other Edo South political leaders. And to the side of the photo there, controversies mar APC gubernatorial primaries in Ondo State. I'm very, very particular about this story because exactly what happened yesterday would like to know this. Talk about election materials not getting to places where I think 203 wards and a bit of violence here and there. Edema Akinteriwa disagree on electoral materials, like I said. Commissioner attacks journalists for covering exercise. And right under that, Tinubu Sanwo-Olu congratulate Tunde Onakoya on new world chess record. That seems to be the highlight of the weekend for most people regarding at least something positive that Nigerians can hang on to this weekend, wasn't it?
That is for certain. I mean, so much is going on with our political scene, our economic scene. But if there's one thing for certain, good news is always welcome.
Always welcome, please.
We'll move away from that now to Sunday Punch. And this one, the very first story that jumps out you is page 3. It's the one on page 3. It says Labour list 7 demands wants creation of state local government LG police. Says federal government, states, LGs, OPs must pay expected minimum wage. XTUC president warns against arbitrary fixing of new wage. Lawyers say LG police visible, I beg your pardon, and that's on page 3. And on the other side of the front page there, you're going to find Abiola's family not supporting Yoruba Nation agitators. And that's Jamu there, Jamu, I beg your pardon, from page 13. On pages 7 and 16, bandits on rampage kill 6 soldiers, 9 others in Sokoto, Niger. On page 36, I still cook my meals, wear makeup at 97. That's a woman after my heart, I would say. After
your heart? After my heart, perhaps. But I'm married. Okay,
there we go. On page 7 there, controversies trails Ondo APC governorship primary. Aspirants demand cancellation. Interesting times ahead, I tell you. For page 8 and 9 on economy, Cardoso says how Naira transformed from worst currency to best performing in 6 weeks.
Yay!
Yeah, good times. Page 23 of the Sunday Punch is death rumors don't bother me, as Governor Oloyo, forgive me, I know I butchered the name there, forgive me, apologies on that. And on page 40 and 41, trampled to death, hunger, desperate search for food drives citizens to early graves. Very sad indeed.
Our final paper this morning is going to be the Sunday Tribune. Ondo APC Primary aspirants protest call for cancellation. Hoodlums chase voters from polling wards. Thugs attack journalists. This was most of the stories we're hearing from yesterday elections. We'll be touching on that one very soon. Edo 2024, Igodalo meets Oyegun, Igbenejan Edo South leaders. APC leaders meeting in Ikoba Oka ends in chaos. And Yahaya Bello, let's talk about that. Anti-corruption groups protest unjust use of state power. Says FG's action suggests issue is political, not just corruption. If that tickles your fancy, find that one on page 27. At the top of the Sunday Tribune, Tinubu Sanwo-Olu hailed Tunde Onakoya's rare feat as Nigerian chess prodigy completes 60 hours Guinness World Record attempt. Thank you very much for putting Nigeria back on the map again. And gunmen abduct RCCG pastor, other passengers in Oyo State. At the very bottom, for the Sunday Tribune, we have these headlines here. Black Weekend, as 28 die, 64 injured in Ogun, Kano, Kaduna. Auto crashes, 6 killed as bandits vigilance group clash in Sokoto communities. And Northern Coalition condemn high price of goods despite Naira appreciation. Well, so much talk about the Naira.
Yes, indeed. And we're going to have a session here later on our big story where we'll have an economist and also an entrepreneur join us in the studio. We're going to go very in-depth into the inflation numbers. We have more time for some headlines, so should we continue? Is that a yes?
Well, I think we are done with that for the Tribune this morning, and that is actually all the papers that we have for this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. Oh, we have one more. Grand.
From Guardian, there we go. From the Guardian, let's see now. On the Guardian paper, on page 2, commotion in APC as Ayedatiwa thrashes opponents. You can find that. It jumps at you there on the Guardian on Sunday. At the very top, the special feature, pages 6 and 7, ghost of NAFCON still haunting Nigeria decades after. Politics on page 8 and 9, as LP crisis festers. Peter Obi's romance with North raises 2027 permutations, I beg your pardon. We'll see how that will unfold in the coming months leading up to 2027. And on the page 3 of The Guardian is electricity supply. Households groan as discos struggle to power premium customers. Mazino, I know you're not one of them. On page 4 of The Guardian is Oboriwori visits Okwama, urges residents to return home. The question is, to what? Page 3 there is, on page 3 you're going to find this story. Alaafin Oyo Mercy appeals as court strikes out case against Makinde commissioners. And that is on page 3. Now on page 4, you're going to find death toll in Plateau attack rises to 21. And on page 3, you're going to find Ohaneze Ndigbo, Yoruba Youth Council fault declaration of former governor, and that's governor of Kogi, Bello, wanted. And that is on The Guardian, the Sunday Guardian. You can make sure to pick up this dailies to get yourself
intimated with the
story.
Granted that the Okwama story is back on the headlines and on the front pages because we actually even have a conversation here today. The governor only just made his first visit to the state, to the community after, 5 whole weeks. Very many questions I have for our guests. Right. We're going to be having a guest on the show today, and we're going to be talking to him about the instance, asking very, questions that everybody's been wanting answered since. So if you stick around, you get to join us on that conversation regarding the governor's visit to, that's Governor Oboriwori, to the Okwama community. So stay tuned. Once again, my name is Mazino Appeal, and
I'm Judith at TV. And that's what we can take for the dailies. Coming up this hour is a look at our big report from this weekend. Like we said earlier, the Ondo APC Primaries happened earlier yesterday. We're going to find out more and also more stories. Stay with us. This is Breakfast Extra.
Welcome back into the studio. With us here for Breakfast Extra. Now, the governor of Delta State South Nigeria, Sheriff Oboriwori, has finally visited Okwama community 5 weeks after 17 soldiers were ambushed and killed. The governor, who was accompanied by some government officials, reiterated that innocent citizens would not be made to suffer for what they know nothing about.
It was the first time the governor was visiting the troubled community after he had earlier been allegedly denied access to the community last month. Recall that 17 officers and soldiers were killed in Okwama community on the 14th of March 2024, a development which made the people of the community flee for fear of being attacked.
Now we have a package just before we introduce our guest and speak with him on the happenings inside of Okwama or what we've found out since.
Okwama, Delta State, has been under a dark cloud since March 14, following the tragic killing of 17 soldiers. Fear gripped the community, forcing residents to flee for their safety. The Nigerian military designated Okwama a crisis zone, restricting access for everyone, including the governor. This decision was met with criticism, with many organizations demanding media access to document the situation.
Access by the media is a crime scene. Even in civil crime, you see they will tape it everywhere. So that is a crime scene. Investigation has not been concluded. So we are still, I don't think it will be appropriate for you, anybody, to go there and interfere with investigation.
After 5 weeks, Delta State Governor Sheriff Oboriwori, accompanied by military officials, finally visited Okwama. Speaking to journalists, the governor reassured that his administration is actively working to resolve the underlying disputes. He also offered hope for the displaced residents, stating their imminent return.
Why I've come here to see how the innocent people can be relocated back with the cooperation of the military. We know it's very painful for this great loss, and you have to follow a process. That's what we are following. In that process, we are healing the wound, because also too, they are so very bitter. The army is so very bitter. So we will manage them. So the issue is this. They assured me, Mr. President, the Chief of Army Staff, assured that no innocent person will be victimized. So the process of relocating them back is on the second process. We are on it already. We'll bring them back. We are talking with the military. So it's not a day job.
News Central remains committed to providing regular updates. Recall a previous report highlighting the initial unrest in Okwama. The pathway to normalcy for Okwama may be long, but News Central will continue to follow the developments and hold authorities accountable for a peaceful resolution and the well-being of the displaced community. In Delta State, for News Central, Austin Azu.
Now joining us is Dr. Fred Ogenesivier, Executive Assistant, Governor's Office, Delta State. Good morning, Doctor. Good to have you on the show this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great.
Thank you so much for coming on. Let's get started, shall we? Many are wondering exactly why it took the governor over 5 weeks to visit, or better put, gain access into Okwama community of his own state, which of course he governs it. Why is that?
But it's, that's quite okay. You heard the military officer say that Okwama has been a crime scene. And a crime scene is a delicate area, and you don't just go into a crime scene because you are a governor. You have to follow the legal procedures and rules governing such incident. And I think that what the governor has done is quite in order, because as the chief security officer of the state, in a matter involving the killing of 4 officers and 3 soldiers, which is a very highly complicated matter, the governor needed to, consult across board and also respect, the procedures regarding matters like this.
So I understand what you're saying about it being a crime scene, and like we saw from what was said in that package here. But the big question is, why is there a scarcity of information regarding the genesis of the killings? What exactly happened at first to cause everything that followed for after?
There is no scarcity of information. The basic and most important information is that the 2 communities have been having these conflicts for quite some years. And the state governor stepped in, set up a committee to look into the matter. The state secretary to the state government, the special advisor on peace and conflict resolution, and very senior members of government officials went to Okwama, discussed with them. They came back at a larger, meeting, and the 2 communities, signed a peace agreement that the issue was over. So it was very, very surprising to us to see that this Okwama thing came up again, and the governor is very surprised. We in government also were surprised, because when you have mediated between 2 parties and they have accepted peace and they signed a peace document, we do not expect that should happen. And that is why we keep saying that the Okwama killing came to us as a very, very big surprise. And I do hope this will not happen in the future.
Now, it was also recorded that despite efforts by the press to gain access into these affected areas, it so happens that, just to get it straight, they were denied access into what could be considered an infringement of the rights of the people. Where their efforts by the state government or any other bodies to dialogue with the army in hopes of letting the press gather information on the situation?
That it's been handled by the military high command. And you see that recently the Chief of Defense Staff set up an investigation panel, a board of inquiry into the incident, led by Air Vice Marshal David Ajayi. As I speak with you, that board is working. They are in Delta, and they are calling witnesses. They want to see the remote and immediate causes of that incident and why those officers were slaughtered in that manner. Remember that this killing is not just an ordinary conflict. It's deeper than that, because the way the officers were killed, mutilated, and disembodied, it was terrible. And I think that the governor himself is not happy about it. Nobody in Delta is happy about it. And across the country, even at the international stage, nobody is happy about such killing of officers who, protected the territorial integrity of our country.
All right, so there's one very interesting question here. If you saw the package that we played, you can see that all the buildings seems to have been raised. Now, these are people, these were residents by people who consider this their home. They could not possibly have raised down their own buildings. So who's responsible for raising those buildings down is the big question now.
I remember that I was in your studio not too long ago, and we also, addressed this issue. The military has denied that they are not responsible for that. But you see, like I said the other time, and I will say it again, all of these will be handled, as we get along. Just like people were claiming that, the governor will not be able to go to Okwama. And I said, governor will go to Okwama at the appropriate time. There is time for everything. You don't expect the military to suffer that kind of a colossal loss, and then you just wave it aside and behave as if nothing has happened. No responsible governor, no responsible government will do that. So we are on top of the matter. The governor was there yesterday as going to see what happened in Okwama. And with the cooperation of military, we'll be able to now begin to figure out some of these things that happen within Okwama and outside Okwama.
Now, let's talk about the governor. The people voted for him. The indigents of Delta State, the votes were loud and clear. But it's taken him so long to get there. And even if he was unable to visit Okwama, you say it was a crime site, then what happens to the people who need reassurance from the governor? Is it clear where his priorities lie, so to speak, or how best could he have intervened if he wasn't able to get access to Okwama?
The governor's priority is for the people that voted him into power. And in that regard, he's committed and ever ready to serve the good people of Delta State at whatever level, within his capacity and within the law of the country. And in doing that also, he must not be insensitive to the plights of the military and what has happened to that community. So the military also is an integral part of the governor's external publics, in that they also constitute members of the State Security Council. And what has happened to the army is also something that has happened to Delta as well, because we keep partnering with the security agencies across board, the military, the Navy, the Air Force, the DSS, and the rest of them. So, the governor is ready and willing that Okwama should be, Okwama people should return back home. And he has said it yesterday on that inspection. You heard him on the video clip when he said that he's working very seriously with the military high command to see how Okwama can be reconstructed and for the people to come back to their communities and live their normal lives. I think that in answering your question, I want to add that the governor is specifically a Nigerian, is a Deltan, and he must not be seen to be one-sided. He must do things, balance equations, make sure that all parties concerned in a conflict are given the appropriate attention that they deserve. And I think that is what he's doing. He's working with the military, and he has assured that the Okwama people will soon return back to their homes. And I'm sure as a governor who loves the people, who has promised so many things in his more agenda, including enhanced peace and security, meaningful development, opportunity for all the Deltans, realistic reforms, the governor will take a step further to make sure that Okwama is brought back, bouncing and doing well.
Okay, so Fred, it's been 5 weeks since before the governor actually made his appearance in Okwama. And you say there are investigations going on and all. But we, from a very special report that we got with our guy on ground, who interviewed people who were affected, noted that there were people who actually lost their lives, people who lost their property. How long more will it take before these people actually get succor? How long more will we get information about exactly what's going on or what happened, what transpired initially in the community? How long more for justice, basically?
Let me use the opportunity to thank News Central for the good job you guys have done in the Okwama community. Your correspondent, Austin Azul, has been a very wonderful young man who does his job passionately. And some of the interviews he had with people of Okwama, they are also part of what we are factoring into the final resolution of this issue and how governments cannot step in to make sure that the Okwama people are brought back home and then they go about their commercial activities, live a normal life, and if possible, subject to availability of state resources. I'm sure His Excellency the Governor will also want to assist them to rebuild their community. That I know him for as a governor with a good heart and as a passionate leader.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming on, Dr. Fred Ogenesibi. We appreciate you for doing this with us and for just having this chat with us this morning.
Thank you for having me. You guys are great. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was the essay to the governor there, or that's the state governor, that's Sheriff Obori, the governor of Delta State, and he's speaking to us about the recent visit of the governor to the Okwama community. Now, Mazino, it's you've heard the EA and all that he had to say about the governor and his visit, and saying that Okwama was it's a crime scene and he couldn't come in, so many, which is very understandable, right? But my worry is also not on the governor now, but on the government officials, in entirety, our government officials, our politicians, and how best they address issues such as this, and how timely they address the issues, how timely they're able to get to the grassroots, get to the constituencies, how timely they're able to meet the people to dialogue.
Judith, I want to take exception to one thing you said. You understand that it was difficult for him to gain access into the community.
I mean, I want to give him a benefit of the doubt.
I'll say this, as a governor of a state, I do not see why it is that difficult for you to enter. You are identified as a governor. You are not going to be identified as somebody who could tamper any evidence that perhaps was, I mean, it's an entire community that was raised. Right. How much evidence can you tamper with if you're calling it a crime scene? That I understand. And then the neglect, or rather the restrictions on the press to actually get into the community and also do their own investigations and bring information to the citizens, that's also another thing. You cannot deny the press access. Right. They need to do their own investigations. The people need to know. Information is power. So those are my exceptions to the thought that, yes, this is why we're keeping it a crime scene. Right. If you get me.
Yeah, and also the civilians as well that's in it. You cannot tell me that there wasn't some loss of life. What are they need to be answers to the questions that they are asking, especially for their properties as well, and especially for those who've been injured, who lost their lives, or even their loved ones.
I'm glad that at least it made it to the front pages once again, because it seemed like it was dying initially, and we don't want that to happen, because I'm from a community close to Ughelli myself, so I'm very concerned about this. So, tell you what, we'll continue to follow the story, and hopefully you guys continue to stick with us here. We've got other stories today, big stories that we want to take a look at. If you stick around, you'll get to see them. We'll be right back.
Nigeria's inflation rate increased to 33.2% for the month of March 2024, according to latest data from the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS. Now, this represents 1.5% points increase from the 31.7% recorded in February of 2024. The increase in the inflation rate in March was slower compared to the 1.80% recorded in February of 2024.
Now, on a year-on-year basis, the headline inflation rate increased by 11.16% from 20.04% in March 2023. Additionally, the headline inflation rate for March 2024 was 3.02%, a decrease of 0.1% from February 2024, when it was 3.12%. Now, despite the Central Bank of Nigeria's bold strategies to combat inflation head-on, The recent inflation rate is a record high for Nigeria, reaching unprecedented heights, and amidst soaring prices of goods, food, services, commodities, and economic uncertainty. Is this a sign of bleak and doom, or is there hope? Well,
yes, indeed. Now, joining us to help make sense of the recent rates and also help us answer these questions, we're joined by Ifeanyi J. Uba, is the Head Investment Research Commercial Partners. And also joining us in the studio is Olabode Peter Afolayan. He is a trader, MD at Pills Limited, or better yet, an entrepreneur, and he joins us live in the studio. Can I just say, Olabode, you really look like an entrepreneur. You're the big man here.
All right, gentlemen, so first off, let's ask Ifeanyi, please give us an interpretation of the numbers that we've just reeled out here. Let's know what the inflation, especially from last month, the inflation rates and all.
Okay, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Nigeria is definitely struggling from galloping inflation. Our numbers definitely would raise an eyebrow, but there's hope. And like you rightly said, the pace of inflation has slowed down. And aside from the pace of inflation, we saw that the month-on-month inflation actually decreased. So it's less expensive to buy goods compared to last month. And this might somewhat seem because of the central bank's hawkish policies. Central banks in different ways have tried to mop up money circulation, and he also increased the interest rate by almost like 600 basis points. So that is to try and curb up the money circulation. But regardless, we are still struggling with double digits inflation. So one might worry, but I feel it's not over yet.
Now, but you say that the prices are coming down as against last month. Nigeria is a very antitypical type of country. How long more will we until we actually get to experience that price drop?
I would say, and the entrepreneur.
The entrepreneur. Thank you very much, Olabode.
Because I noticed when he said that, the prices will somewhat reflect,
sniggered, didn't he?
He kind of made a reaction to that. So let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so it's actually most of this can be well, everything you have here was transported here and all of that. But like you said, the CBN's policies and all that they've been doing has tried to rein in the galloping inflation. And with time, it's not going to be an immediate thing. With time, you're going to see inflation start receding. Also, you have the issue of FX. If you look at the rates as well, that has been going down.
Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a very short break, only because we have to take the news for 9 o'clock. When we get back, we'll still be joined by these gentlemen as we talk about the inflation rates here in Nigeria and what might come this week.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines on News Central TV. I'm Darshan Usman. Now let's kick off in West Africa, Nigeria, where the primary of the All Progressives Congress has ended. We understand that some of the stakeholders in the election have been crying foul over how the election committee handled the electoral process. The aggrieved party members alleged that the committee, which was headed by the Kogi State Governor Usman Ododo, was biased in the assignment. Meanwhile, the state governor, Lucky Ayedatiwa, has expressed satisfaction over the turnout of party members to select their preferred candidates in the governorship primary of the All Progressives Congress in the state. Ayedatiwa described the party primary as a crucial step in determining the APC's flag bearer for the forthcoming governorship election.
In that oil-rich community, the land of my birth, Obinla, to exercise my right to vote and to be voted for, to be the flag bearer of our party, the All Progressive Congress, APC, in the forthcoming gubernatorial election. And as you can see, the turnout is so huge. I'm not expecting anything less, because this is where I was born, this is where I started my primary school, and I'm so happy also to see some of my classmates.
Well, let's also tell you that Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has commended a Nigerian chess maestro, Tunde Onakoya, on setting a new world chess record. Tinubu thanked Onakoya for sounding the gong of Nigeria's resilience, self-belief and ingenuity at the square of global acclaim. Now, Onakoya broke the Guinness World Record for the longest chess marathon on Saturday after playing for over 58 hours undefeated. The ECOWAS Commission says it has set aside about $25 million to support ongoing war against terrorism in the 4 member states of Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger. The Commission said it set aside $4 million for humanitarian support from the fund. The Commission, during a briefing by its Department of Human Development and Social Affairs in Abuja, says that it also allocated $1 million for victims of terrorism, displaced persons, injured persons, including for the rehabilitation and strengthening of community resilience in Nigeria alone. Still in West Africa, the United Kingdom has returned on a 6-year loan 32 gold and silver treasures looted from the Ashanti Kingdom over 150 years ago back to Ghana. Now confirming the return of the items, the chief negotiator said the objects were given to the palace on loan. The precious artifacts, comprising 15 items from the British Museum and 17 from the Victoria and Albert Museum, were originally pilfered from the court of the Ashanti king during turbulent 19th century clashes between the British and the influential Ashanti people. Now let's head to Central Africa, where at least 58 people going to a funeral have died after their overloaded riverboat capsized in the Central African Republic's capital, Bangui. Now, head of the Civil Protection Agency, who confirmed the incident, said 58 lifeless bodies were extracted from the water. According to witnesses, the boat was carrying more than 300 people, some standing and others perched on wooden structures when it sank on the Mpoko River. And that's it on Breakfast Headlines. I'm Darshan Usman.
You're watching Breakfast Extra. Darshan, many thanks to you for bringing the news. But let's come back to the conversation, and this time on Nigeria's economy and the inflation rate, which has now reached a 28-year high at 33.2%. Now we're joined in the studio by Ifeanyi J. Uba. He is the head of research at Commercio Partners, as well as Olabode Afolayan. He is an entrepreneur and he's live with us in the studio. Now, earlier on during our conversation,
I wanted to say something about that. The best part of the show just went by. You guys didn't see it because Judith almost killed this guy here because she was so enthusiastic about her. What was it the question we asked that went on until after?
Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Look at hey. Hi. Look at me. Do you believe it?
Let's ask that again.
The answer is no.
You're very passionate. Let's ask that
again.
Yeah,
so the question we're asking, right, we're going to get to that because we need to give context, right, Mazino? Okay. Hang on. So we need to give context. And we're talking about whether or not the market and the prices will return back, or if we're seeing signs of it returning back. And Olabode, who's an entrepreneur, says yes. But to sort of get context, right, Ifeanyi, what are the contributing factors to the hike in the rates that we're seeing?
About the Nigerian inflation,
yes.
Right? So the major contributing factors is like food, which is at 40%. Then we also have transportation, which contributes majorly to food and energy. So those three clusters are what are majorly causing the downturn in inflation. And those three are kind of also influenced by exchange rate factors too. So we also have imported inflation coming to the mix and say, don't count me out.
Right. So now we have that, right? These are the numbers we're looking at. Food is part of it. The CBN has done, we've seen their efforts that they've been making relentlessly to try to make the inflation come down. Will there be any implications for the economy? And this question is directed to both of you because I see Olabode's body language. But let me start with you, Ifeanyi.
Okay.
All the efforts they've been making to try to battle it, to bring it down.
Yeah, so inflation is a sticky problem, and this is something that has gone down years. And John Maynard Keynes have written a lot about this in terms of sticky prices and wages. So when you're trying to bring prices down, it's very difficult. But trying to get it up, just by rumors, you see people hiking rates. It's very easy to bring prices up. And
hoarding as well, that we saw late last year and early this year as well.
Exactly. But the market is self-correcting. You know, once prices actually settle and the market is being overpriced by people in the market, you know, we have market forces correct themselves and prices come down. I'm sure the trader will be able to explain more on that,
Yes,
but what
exactly.
it actually means is that once you go out and your cost of production is low, you will need to sell it low to be more competitive. If you're still selling it high, you get crowded out.
Alabadi.
It's actually right. Like I was saying
before the assault.
Not do that.
But go on. So it takes a bit of time for you to see the impact of some of the policies that the CBN has rolled out. For example, with the FX rates that have come down, you have people that have imported items when rates were still almost as high as 2,000 naira. They will need to sell off the old stock and then buy new one at the new rates. Also, the customs rates has also gone down. So which means that things like import duty that is being paid on all those items too would come down. So with time, you'd see the impact of that, because that's what you call the imported inflation. Also with the refinery, the Dangote refinery that has come on board as well, at least the transportation cost, haulage cost, insurance, freight cost for imported fuel, you have all those costs, you know, excluded now from petrol that we'll be using in Nigeria. So I expect price of petrol with time, not immediately, might actually also come down, especially when FX rates go below 8,000 to the dollar.
So I asked a very interesting question while we were on break. And my question was, save the FX, remove the FX from the indices, from the equation here. Where would Nigeria's inflation rate be without the inclusion of the FX?
So definitely it won't be this high.
It won't be this high. Currently 33%. Give or take. What do you guys think?
So if we look at last year's rates before subsidy removal and before FX went above 1,000 naira, we're at about 20-something percent.
Yeah.
So at least you can be sure that we should be able to get back to that point.
Now, in furtherance to that, do people have an idea of the situation Nigeria is in when it comes to inflation? We just bandied this about and say inflation at 33%. People don't have an idea. Let's compare. Let's compare to America, for instance. Let's compare to Ghana. What is the American situation and how are they handling it? Ifeanyi.
Well, you see, like Nigeria and the American economy are wide apart. To make that comparison is very difficult. But inflation is a common phenomenon everywhere.
But what's their figure in America?
It's hovering around 3%.
3%? Yeah. How are they handling it? Are they like calm, like, okay, we're good?
No, like definitely not calm.
They're running helter-skelter.
Taking measures to try and bring it down to their 2% region.
Now we're at 33%. How are we managing all of that? And Ghana is at what? Less than 33%, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so like when you're dealing with Nigeria, you have to talk about structure. You asked an important question. What would Nigerian inflation look like without FX problems? So if you're trying to answer that question, you have to break it down. So what does it mean for Nigeria not to have FX problems? It means that our exports will definitely exceed our imports. That means Nigeria will change from what we see now to an exporting country. In that kind of analogy, I see our inflation coming down to single digits, because that means we have essentially changed the structure. Remember, what the CBN is trying to do is, you know what they say, I think it was Milton Friedman that gave this illustration on inflation. Say inflation is like alcoholism, you know? If you take little alcohol, it's fun because it gets the economy moving. So there's an incentive to take more, but taking more is where there's a problem. And you have the side effects of taking too much alcohol. But the solution is also daring too. The solution is stop taking the alcohol. But how do you feel when you stop taking the alcohol? There's a little strife, there's a little discomfort. And that's what Nigerians are facing now. But after this discomfort, there'll be smiles.
But numbers don't lie. You know, this rate is a record high for the country on all frontiers. What can be done to curtail the inflation? Or better yet, are we doing enough to curtail the inflation?
Yeah, so since we drew parallels from the United States economy, one thing that came to mind is Paul Volcker. United States were dealing with similarly high inflation, not as galloping as ours, but the highest it has ever been in 1970. And what happened was that the APS Bank president came in, which was Paul Volcker, and instituted somewhat similar measures that the CBN is instituting, which is aggressive rate hike. But it actually had to slow down the economy. The economic growth in America actually slowed down, and it was attributed to this aggressive rate hike. Although people shunned him that time, he's still hailed as a hero because the United States have not reached that level of inflation. So what can be done is what the Apex Bank is doing. So I just feel they should fasten up their seatbelts.
Olabode, do you have anything to add? I mean, you're in the market, you understand what the markets
You're the typical example.
You're the typical example. The policies they're making, are they doing enough?
Yes, they are. I think one other thing that we can add to what he said is the issue of security. You see, the food inflation itself has really gone haywire because of the security situation around the middle belt of the country, which is the food basket of the nation. And it's not like it's this dispensation issue or last dispensation issue. We've been having this insurgency crisis coming from the northeast, and it spread all the way down. In fact, they got to Abuja at some point, with their issues, but it's really distorted our food, sector. That's why you have the food inflation itself so high. So the issue of security really needs to be, put on front burner for this government. Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, you should know because you're out there. So, I mean, I'm wondering if that dollar naira instance is evident in your trade. Have you seen that?
When you say
are you beginning to feel the effect of the gain of the naira?
So I trade global markets. So I'm not really.
Okay.
There we are. Like I said, he's a big man. I've always said you are a big man indeed. If I looking ahead, my final question. Looking ahead, what are the expectations or forecast for Nigeria's inflation rate in the coming month? Do we see these numbers going even higher? Would they drop at least by 1.1%?
Well, it's really hard to give a very short-term forecast because the market dynamics are very volatile. But what I can tell you is that on the long run, if the CBN continues maintaining the contractionary measures and strengthening the transmission mechanism, we could see inflation go back to 20-something% by the end of the year. I think IMF also has that same prediction. So I'm in line with the IMF prediction as well.
Right. Well, fine. Many thanks for coming on, and also to you, Olabode.
Thank you very much.
For coming
it was a grand conversation, even after or before we came on. That was good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, now, do stay tuned because right now what we're going to be doing is going live to our correspondents in Ondo State for the Ondo State APC primary elections that happened yesterday. I want to get an idea of what exactly happened there and what's happening currently. So let's see if we have our guy on ground already. That's Ni Omoni. Hello, Ni. Are you there with us?
Good morning, Mazino. Good morning, Judith.
Good morning, Ni. I almost said Mazino. Goodness me, I'm sick of you, Mazino. Well, good morning to you, Ni.
It's okay.
So much is going on in Ondo State, if I do say so myself. The news that we've been hearing, we've seen it on all the front pages of the newspaper today. We've seen it so far, even on the headlines in our news that we took at 9 o'clock. But you are there live since yesterday, in fact, since Friday, correct me. So just give me an update. What happened all through yesterday? Rumors of materials missing, so much that we've seen. You give us the latest, your eyes and ears there.
So I will start from the beginning of the day before I give you the latest update that just arrived to my phone a few minutes before I came on air right now. So yesterday started on an interesting note where the APC committee chair, who is the current governor of Kogi State, Usman Ododo, when he was asked question about materials, electoral materials that should go to various local governments, and he mentioned that the materials had already been distributed. And journalists were wondering, we've been here since morning, how come the materials were distributed and no one knew about it? But it really didn't have so much to say, and that was where the first red flag came in. Now, very early yesterday, we had moved out of the state capital of Akure to Ilaje local government area, which is the local government of the incumbent, and of course the local governments of few of the aspirants as well. And it's at 8:30, 9, and even to 10 when we were there, electoral materials have not even gotten there. In fact, words were like, the materials were still in Akure at that time, so we don't know when it was going to get there. Now, before you get to that Ilaje local government, we have the Okitipupa local government, which we also passed through, and we didn't notice anything. Although the people were there, the electorates were there, the party card carrying members were already there on ground, mobilizing, because some of them need to move to the riverine area, so they were mobilizing on how to get to their ward. The election was conducted by wards and not polling units. That's what they decided this time around. And when we saw them, they were not even electoral officers there. Now we dashed quickly back to the state capital at around 12. At around 12, most polling units had not, had not even started. Now this exercise, let me explain how it's meant to go. What happens is you stand at the back of the banner of the aspirant who you're supporting. It's just supposed to be a counting process, not a thumb printing or so. It's just a counting process. You stand behind the person you support, and they count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And whatever the number is, they record it for that aspirant. That is the process. So it's not supposed to take more than 30-40 minutes immediately it starts up. But we noticed that in most of the local governments, it didn't even start. And the few ones where it started, like there were 2 Akure South local governments where we went to, just few minutes after we got there and left, violence broke out, and the counting had already, stopped. The counting has ended, and violence broke out there. We hear rumors of the fact that there were supporters of the incumbent with the supporters of some of the aspirants, just went head to head. It was a whole lot, and the news we were getting as well from other feelers we were getting from other local governments signifies that election did not hold at most local governments. Now, that was not even the height of the event yesterday. The height of the event was that even after the exercise was completed, which we can't even ascertain at the time because most of the local governments didn't conduct an election, when we were at the press center waiting to know the location where the coalition would take place, we didn't get any information. Everyone we were reaching out to, that the press was reaching out to get information as to where the coalition would take place, didn't know anything. We were there from 5 p.m. till around 8 p.m.-ish, when we decided, you know what, they said it's somewhere around the Dome, which is a huge structure in the capital, and we decided to go there. Now, when we got there, we didn't even see the presence. It didn't look like this was going to be a coalition center. The only place we saw, which I shared the videos earlier, was a place called the Situation Room. And of course, we decided, this cannot be the place where the coalition will go on. So we waited there from 8 p.m. till around 12 a.m. this morning. That was when we started seeing signs, and a door just behind the one where the Situation Room is where the coalition center will be. All of a sudden, we saw that it has been arranged, the banner has been put into the hall, and it has been sealed off, cordoned off from press to gain entrance. And we can see a live feed from the hall showing outside, because there are some strategic TVs that have been stationed outside for you to see what is going on inside. Yes, no doubt, once the announcement starts, once the coalition starts, we will be given access to this place. Then around 1 a.m. this morning, that was when we got information that one of the reasons why they had not given that announcement was because the result is inconclusive at Okitipupa local government. Now, according to the press release I have with me, let me just read it. This is a press release from His Excellency Alhaji Usman Ododo, who is the chairman of the Ondo Primary Election Committee. Now, it says that election from the 203 wards in 18 local governments, they notice that the election has to be conducted in the 13 wards of the Okitipupa local government, with a total validated registered members of over 9,515, because of validated reports that the exercise did not hold in that local government due to late arrival of materials and personnel as a result of logistic challenges. Now, so the election of that particular local government is set to hold by noon today. Now, let me just describe how far this place is so that you understand, that you can grasp how big this is. Okitipupa local government from the state capital is about 3 hours journey. So which means if the materials don't leave early enough today, the materials might still be getting there very, very late. And once it gets there, let's say it gets there on time and they start by 12, give or take 30, 40 minutes, the process is over. Then the information needs to be sent down here. So we're looking at around 2 or 3 or even 4 before the collation starts. But one thing is sure, as I've always assured, once it starts and whatever happens in Akure here, we are going to bring it live.
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting logistics problem you've given us regarding the elections happening right now. But we also heard that some of the aspirants are, well, very disapproving of the way the elections went. Have you heard any concerns of such? In fact, they're even calling for it to be cancelled.
About 4 of the 16 aspirants.
They've shared, yes, they've shared enough. Some are calling for cancellation, some are calling for postponement, some are calling for something like this, which is conducting the election at some local governments all over again. In fact, the rumors we're hearing is that there's going to be so much litigation after this election, so big that the incumbent will have a lot on his hands, because there are confirmations from them we didn't get to see because we were not everywhere. But a few places we were, there were confirmations that election did not hold at many local governments or even some wards. And if they come to the collation center and results are actually given out or dished out from these various local governments, then that is going to be an issue. Yes, I know about 2 aspirants who has come out to say this is wrong and has called for cancellation, and I've also called for postponement of the APC primaries. But of course, all powers lie within the APC committee to come out and let us know what the way forward is. If they are going to be announcing when the result comes in from the last local government of the 18, and they are going to declare the APC primary, one thing is sure, it's an internal, I won't say crisis, it's an internal struggle. It's an internal struggle, so nobody can really predict this is how it will tilt or not. In fact, according to rumors we also hear, there seems to be some sort of settlement within some aspirants of some local government, because you will notice that local aspirants from other local governments are not really saying much, are not pushing so much as aspirants from this Okitekupa local government. Most of the aspirants from the larger local governments where we got to yesterday are not even pushing so bad, although they've not released the presser. We're waiting for them to get to release a presser. Maybe they are all waiting for the announcement of the APC committee, but after then, that is where we will know when the real deal will emerge. Well, I think the APC is prepared for that, because a 65-man committee has already been set up, not yet announced, but of course will be set up for any complaint and litigation. So those are the things we are looking forward to in the coming days.
Well, let's see how it happens and how it unfolds in the coming days.
Yes,
all eyes now are on APC, especially in Ondo State. We can see that all the party faithfuls as well as the aspirants are unhappy. I mean, by the number we're seeing, 4 is to be worried. And to also say that materials didn't get on time, the organization of it in and of itself calling for cancellation. Hopefully we'll see how it turns out in the next couple of days.
Thank you very much, Nee. And by the way, when you get back, I'm keeping that shirt, just so you know.
Nee, I want snacks from the Sunshine State. You know me now. I'm a snack monster. I'm a cookie monster.
Thank you, Nee.
Pounded yam. I'll just package some for you and Mazino.
I trust you.
Grand. All right, fantastic. All right, well, now that's it about the Ondo elections, but we're still going to be continuing to carry on or follow that story. But we've got more here, and of course, we have something very, very relative to talk about.
Yes, it's power. All right. Did you know that the power grid has collapsed up to 140 times?
Wow.
That's a long wow. That's all I have to say.
We'll talk about that when we get back. Welcome back. Still Breakfast Extra here for a Sunday edition. Let's talk about the national grid. The Nigerian national electricity grid collapsed yet again at the start of last week at about 2:42 a.m. on Monday, with generation dropping to 64.70 megawatts. Now, confirming the collapse, the Just Electricity Distribution Company, in a statement signed by the head of corporate communications Friday, Elijah, said the loss of power supply from the national grid occurred in the early hours of Monday.
Now, in November 2013, the federal government privatized all generation and 11 distribution companies, with the federal government retaining the ownership of the transmission company. This was to improve efficiency in the sector. However, since privatization, the grid has collapsed more than 140 times, collapsing for a third time in 2024 on Monday.
Now, joining us as we unpack this issue, we have with us here, joining via Zoom or via online video chat, Wesley Omonofoma, GMD New Hampshire Capital Group. You are welcome, sir. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you so much for coming on. Let's get started quickly and just dive in and address the current national grid collapses in Nigeria. What are the underlying factors contributing to these recurrent issues that we've seen 3 times already or 4 times this year? Is that too much?
Thank you. Well, system collapses, as they're known, are usually part of operating a national grid, and they could occur from vandalism of transmission lines, as the last 2 cases have been, where some vandals had cut down 2 transmission lines between the Shirura and Abuja leg. It could also happen when you lose generation. So a generation plant actually goes down, maybe out of gas, or there's a failure of that of the turbines, right? So, but transmission collapses could happen for a variety of mechanical reasons or electrical reasons. There could also be the frequency aspect of it, where the system is meant to be at a particular frequency, and then it goes out of that frequency. It needs to shut down. So system collapses are part of operating a national grid, and you would always have them. The issue is, how do you make sure they're not as frequent as we're seeing it?
So talking about that now, exactly what steps can be taken to prevent any future grid collapse?
Well, first of all, you need to stop vandals. Our biggest challenge we're having right now in recent times are people deliberately going to destroy transmission infrastructure. We have them in the Northeast, where we had Boko Haram blow up about 3 transmission towers, and vandals just go and hack these towers just like that. The other thing you can do, but then to make sure you prevent that amount of the system from collapsing, you need to have what you call a spinning reserve. So a spinning reserve is, for instance, if a generation plant goes down, say you lose about 300 megawatts, you should have another generation plant supply that 300 megawatts within a space of seconds or minutes. So you need to have what you call a spinning reserve. Think of the spinning reserve as having comprehensive insurance on your car, right? Something happens, and then the insurance company steps in to make sure your car is back and up and running. The challenge with spinning reserve is that it comes at a cost. So you have somebody producing 300 megawatts, but not actually putting it on the grid, just waiting for the grid or for that event to happen, and then that reserve is brought onto the grid. It's a cost which has been a challenge to factor into tariffs. But to the extent that there are preventive measures as much as possible, planning for load, system operations, and then having that spinning reserve, you could curtail as much as possible the frequency of system collapses or grid collapse as we know it now.
Right. Now, we understand that the sector is somewhat privatized, right? Although it's a public-private partnership going on. And at first, when this happened, we thought it was crucial in the transformation of Nigeria's power sector. Is it still crucial in transforming Nigeria's power sector, public-private partnership, and in what sorts this time around?
Okay, so first of all, let me say this. The transmission aspect of the electricity sector wasn't privatized. It still remains under government control. Let me also say that the reason why we don't have reliable power is not because of the transmission network. That might be shocking to a number of people, but it's not because we have system collapses. System collapses last for between 8 to 12 hours, and then the national grid is restored again. So that's not why we don't have reliable power. To your question in terms of privatization of the distribution aspect of it was meant to deliver reliable power. That aspect of privatization is what has failed due to a combination of reasons ranging from poor regulations, the investors not having the right financial capacity to make the right investments in the distribution aspect of it. Now, generation was privatized as well. So if you look at generation, I'm sure you heard of Geregu. It's a 1 trillion naira company. You've heard of Transcorp Power. That's almost a 1.7 trillion naira company. These are the same companies operating in the sector, but they are on the generation side. So generation, privatization of generation aspect of the power sector has worked. We have 13,000 megawatts of available capacity. What has failed and continues to fail is the distribution side of the sector. And without the distribution side of the sector getting up and being revamped, either through privatization or more competition in that space, I don't think we would ever have reliable power.
Okay, so let's talk about the hike in tariffs so far. Consumers have been asked to pay higher. That's band-aid consumers. And that's under the promise that they were going to be giving 20-hour power supply. Now, with the dysfunction that we're seeing in the system, now should Nigerians actually be paying that premium that they were asked to pay?
First of all, service-based tariffs, as they are known, was introduced 2020. It's not a new thing. I'm just shocked that Nigerians were not aware that they were supposed to be paying for services based on the number of hours that they get. And it's also no surprise because where you have this tariff introductions, there were not enough public consultations. So under the service-based tariffs, band-aid tariffs, band-aid customers should expect minimum of 20 hours per day. Band B customers 16 hours per day. Band C 12, and then band D 8 hours. Obviously, if your band is not mentioned, that means you don't even have power at all. Now, in terms of what the tariff hike, what we now see is that the federal government is using band-aid customers to subsidize the entire sector. Is that fair? Is that unjust? That's a question that perhaps those who are interested in challenging this in court should push for. But the reality is that we don't have enough electricity because of the fact that the tariffs that we also pay for the services are not commensurate to the cost of producing it. I mean, up until recently for the band-aid customers. The other challenge I have is that we're focusing on the cost of band-aid customers. Nobody's focusing on the fact that are they really getting the 20 hours of service? Are band B customers who are paying for band B service as regulated or as stipulated by NEC, are they getting the 16 hours of service? Are band C customers getting the 12 hours of service? Until we start to interrogate the quality of service provided by these utility companies, specifically DISCOs, we will focus on the wrong things. And I mean, focusing on 225 naira per kilowatt hour is not the right approach. The right approach should be, are we getting 20 hours as we said? And if we're not getting 20 hours, what is the recourse? What is the mechanism to make sure I get 20 hours of service? Somebody who's supposed to have 16 hours, what's the recourse if he doesn't get 16 hours of service? Yes, they have been running on generator. We ran on generator since Friday night up until sometime early this morning. I'm supposed to be on, I think, band B or something like that. And that's ridiculous. So I think if government has to increase tariff to guarantee quality of service, then it should do so, provided that that quality of service is met.
Right. Let's talk about the future of energy for Nigeria and what it would cost for us to ensure that, I mean, band A, band C, band D, bandit, contraband, they all get jokes. They're all assured that what is promised on their bands. What would it cost?
I don't think it's a matter of cost. I think we run a system that will never deliver power to us reliably, whether you pay 100,000
so total overhaul,
you will never get it because of the system we're running. We're running a system where distribution companies have monopoly. Where you have monopoly, you never have efficiency. So what needs to happen is more competition at the distribution side. I can tell you for free, people in Benin City, they're enjoying 24 hours of service on another distribution company, licensed by those states.
And how do they generate that power?
24-hour power service.
How do they generate that power?
So you have a system where you have the discourse as currently structured, regulated from Abuja, it will never work. So my own recommendation is Lagos State should immediately pass its law to allow more players in Lagos State electricity market. States should pass their laws.
So Wesley,
otherwise the current structure we're running will never work.
Wesley, I was asking, how do they generate that power, that privately generated power? What is the means? Is it thermal? Is it hydro? How exactly do they generate it?
It's the same gas that we all complain about. It's the same gas. It's the same hydro. The point is generation is not our problem. Our problem is the fact that for you and I to enjoy supply, we have to be connected to a disco service. That disco is not reliable. So what you need is if you're not getting service from that utility, what you need to do is, okay, who else can provide me service? So what that entails is for the states to license another entity to provide distribution services. And the truth of the matter is electricity distribution are actually covered under state laws. So it's the state, not the national, not the federal government, that should make laws for electricity distribution within a state. So as much as we want reliable power, we will never get reliable power under the structure where the federal government and the utilities of the discos have this monopoly over who delivers power to us. So we need more competition in that space. Once you have more competition, certain things start to happen. First, there's innovation. We don't have innovation in the distribution space in this country right now. We don't have that.
Okay.
Right? You have more local investors coming in, and you're not looking at the local investors who are. You find out that all you need is a transformer, somebody to change your transformer. That's what you need to get 24-hour power. But the utility company cannot make that investment, and where you have those challenges, you can never get it. That's why we need third-party states to license more competition at the distribution side to make sure we have more power.
Thank you very much, Wesley.
Wesley, many thanks for just giving us lots of insights on there. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
And that's Wesley Omofoma there. He is the GMD New Hampshire Capital Group, and he joined us to give insight on Nigeria's national grid collapse for a third time this year.
All right, now, so coming up, let's give you some more information, only this time inside of sports. We have Udoka standing by.
For joining us in the world of sports, and of course, a lot of interesting events, and we have to start off with the world of chess, and it has to do with the big man himself, the king of chess, that is Onakoya, who broke the Guinness World Book of Records. And for the Nigerian chess master and his American counterpart, Sean Martinez, they have hit the mark for the longest chess marathon, enduring a long 60-hour match. Now, this remarkable achievement highlights their extraordinary stamina and skills on how they achieved that major result in the world of chess. And both players, recognized as national masters, battled it out in a match that tested endurance and skill, with each move contributing to their historic achievement. Now, in a statement from Onakoya's foundation, Chess in Slums Africa, it was revealed that the duo will share the title for the longest chess game ever recorded. Now, Onakoya took to his X account on Saturday to praise Martinez, highlighting his significant role in their joint success. Now, this record-breaking event not only showcases their personal dedication, but also shines a light on the intense mental stamina required in chess. Right away from the world of chess, still interesting events happening across the world of sports as we go straight to the world of basketball, talking about the Basketball Africa League. Now, the French-American basketball player John Walter Wilkins is expressing high hopes for his team, the Rivers Hoopers, as they prepare for the 2024 Basketball Africa League. Now, Wilkins, the son of former NBA star Jeff Wilkins, has joined his team at a training camp in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. With the Savannah Conference games set to commence on Saturday, the 4th of May in Dakar, Senegal, Wilkins is optimistic about their chances, having experienced African basketball with teams in Morocco and the third place finish with Stade Malien in last year's Basketball Africa League. Wilkins is familiar with the competitive level of the league, and he believes that the quality of basketball has significantly improved across Africa, and he is confident that Rivers Hoopers will be the surprise package of the tournament. Of course, a lot of experienced teams right there in the Basketball Africa League, and we look forward to see if Rivers Hoopers have what it takes to surely match up with the big boys on the continent. Right away from that one now to football matters, and it's all about the CAF Confederation Cup. Interesting games that went on yesterday as Moroccan football club RS Berkane have resolved the jersey dispute that put the team in a predicament upon their arrival in Algiers for a crucial CAF Confederation Cup semi-final game. Now, the issue involved RS Berkane's official team jerseys, which prominently display the map of the Kingdom of Morocco. Now, this inclusion sparked controversy with Algerian custom officials, leading to complications upon the team's arrival. Now, after being held for hours at the Houari Bamoudian airport, the team complied late Friday night with a request from the Confederation of African Football to leave the airport. Now, RS Berkane can now go ahead to face Algerian club USM Alger in the first leg of the competition on Sunday evening. From football matters, let's head to the world of athletics as reigning 3,000-meter steeplechase world record holder Lamecha Germa triumphed in the men's 5,000-meter race. Now, Germa, who is associated with a steeplechase, clocked a time of 12 minutes and 58 seconds, edging out a field dominated by specialist long-distance runners, particularly from Kenya. Now, we had Kenya's Nicholas Kipkorir finishing in a close second with a time of 12 minutes, 59 seconds, and closely followed by Birahim Balwiu, who secured third place by clocking in at a time of 13 minutes, 47 seconds. Now, Germa's transition from a signature event where he holds the world record with a time of 7 minutes, 52 seconds in the steeplechase to the flat 5,000-meter race was on highlight at the Diamond League opener in Xiamen, China. From athletics, let's go straight to the FA Cup, and it was all about Manchester City and Chelsea. And for City, they bounced back from the disappointing loss in the Champions League after they exited in the quarterfinals to Real Madrid. Of course, it was Bernardo Silva who scored an 84th-minute strike to lead City to a 1-0 win against Chelsea at Wembley, leading the citizens to a second FA Cup final in 2 years. Pep Guardiola's side was second best for long periods of the semi-final, but Chelsea wasted a string of chances before Silva's goal 6 minutes before full-time sealed a not-so-impressive night for Manchester City. Now, City will go on to face either Manchester United or Coventry, who meet later today, and that will be talking about the final on the 25th of May, making it their 13th final in the competition. And I'm sure fans will look forward to seeing the two neighbours, Manchester City, taking on the Red Devils of Manchester United. But that is if United get to defeat Coventry later today. In the world of tennis, sadly for Muguruza's fans, Gabi Muguruza, a two-time major champion, has announced her retirement from professional tennis at the age of 30 after an extended absence from the courts. Now, notably, she defeated Serena Williams in the 2016 French Open final and Venus Williams in the 2017 Wimbledon final, making her the sole player to beat each Williams sister in a Grand Slam title match. Muguruza, born in Caracas to a Spanish father and a Venezuelan mother, moved to Barcelona as a child to pursue her tennis career. With 10 career titles, including runner-up at Wimbledon in 2015 and the Australian Open in 2020, she amassed nearly $25 million in prize money and held a win-loss record of 449 wins and 238 losses. Her last significant triumph was at the 2021 ATP Finals, and she has not competed since January 2023, extending her hiatus that April. Of course, she has called it quits with the world of tennis, and fans are wishing her all the best in her next journey. From tennis, let's wrap up with the world of darts as Luke Humphries secured his first win over Luke Littler since their World Championship final clash as he advanced to the last 16 of the PDC European Darts Grand Prix in Germany. Now, in a thrilling encounter, Humphries clinched a narrow 6-5 victory, surviving a match darts in the final leg and sealing the win with an impressive 11 darts break. Now, this win marks Humphries' first triumph over Littler in 8 meetings since their encounter in January's World Championship final. With an impressive average of 101 and 5 180s, Humphries completed a remarkable comeback, and he's now set to face Stephen Bunting in the next round after Bunting's dramatic 6-5 win over Ryan Searle, where he also survived 5 match darts. And that's a wrap on Sport Updates on Breakfast Extra. I am Udoka Njako saying thank you very much for watching, and I pass over to Mazino and Judith. Good morning, guys.
Well, thank you very much, Udoka. Good to have you on for sports with us. By the way, we wanted to talk about the fact that Gabrine actually beat both Serena sisters. How much of an achievement is that? I mean, not only that you won the cup or you won the match, you won both sisters.
I have a beef, but I'll just give I have a serious beef, but I won't say anything.
You know, when it comes to the world of tennis, sports in general, when, in quotes, minor gets to defeat the big boys, it becomes major news because beating the the Williams sisters is a major big deal when it comes to the world of tennis because these ladies have dominated the sport for years. So for Gabi Muguruza to come in and beat the two sisters, it is a huge one on our record. And of course, she would go home smiling all the way, knowing that in her time playing tennis, she defeated the Serena Williams sisters.
And when it's her turn, they're also going to beat her and defeat her.
She has retired.
And I cannot wait.
You can't stay there forever. Thank you very much, Udoka. Grand. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, now we also still have coming your way some news for you inside of our 10 o'clock hour.
Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines on News Central TV. I'm Darshan Usman. We begin with politics in Nigeria, where the chairman of the Ondo State Primary Election Committee, Governor Usman Ododo of Kogi State, has announced that polls will be conducted in all 13 wards of the Okitipupa local government area of the state by 12 noon today. In a statement he signed, the governor said this was the decision of the Primary Election Committee, having received reports of the primary election from the 203 wards in the 18 local governments of Ondo State. There were reports that the exercise did not hold in the local government due to late arrival of materials and personnel as a result of logistics challenges. The recent crisis rocking the All Progressives Congress has taken another twist as another group emerged as the authentic members of Ganduje Ward in Tofa local government area of Kano State, suspending the national chairman, Abdullahi Ganduje. Now, the faction represented by Ahmed Ganduje had emerged to declare support for the national chairman, insisting the ward's officials were satisfied with his leadership style. However, in yet another twist, the group led by the secretary of the ward, Jafar Adamu, has disclosed to journalists on Sunday that 11 out of 27 executive members of Ganduje Ward are the legitimate ward ESCOs legally elected on 31st July 2021 and is issuing fresh suspension on Abdullahi Ganduje. The Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Yemi Cardoso says the Apex Bank's FX reforms have made the Naira the best performing currency globally. Nigeria's currency lost massively against major currencies in the past few months. But Cardoso, who spoke in a briefing on the sidelines of the just-ended World Bank IMF Springs meetings in Washington, D.C., United States, said the CBN's foreign exchange reforms are paying off. The CBN chief, however, assured that he is not carried away by this and is well aware of the challenges facing the nation's economy, including the rise in inflation rate. The ECOWAS Commission says it has set aside about $25 million to support ongoing war against terrorism in the 4 member states of Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Now, the Commission said it set aside $4 million for humanitarian support from the fund. The Commission, during a briefing by its Department of Human Development and Social Affairs in Abuja, says that it's also allocated $1 million for victims of terrorism, displaced persons, injured persons, including for the rehabilitation and strengthening of community resilience in Nigeria alone. Still in West Africa, the adoption of the new Togolese constitution unanimously by the Togolese MPs is fueling tension between the ruling party and the opposition. Now, this is coming just 9 days before the legislative and regional elections. During a press conference in Lomé, the opposition calls for the mobilization of Togolese citizens against the regime of Faure Gnassingbe. The United Kingdom has returned on a 6-year loan 32 gold and silver treasures looted from the Ashanti Kingdom over 150 years ago back to Ghana. Now confirming the return of the items, the chief negotiator said the objects were given to the palace on loan. The precious artifacts, comprising 15 items from the British Museum and 17 from the Victoria and Albert Museum, were originally pilfered from the court of the Ashanti king during turbulent 19th century clashes between the British and the influential Ashanti people. Now in Central Africa, at least 58 people going to a funeral have died after the overloaded river boat capsized in the Central African Republic's capital, Bangui. Now, head of the Civil Protection Agency, who confirmed the incident, said 58 lifeless bodies were extracted from the water. According to witnesses, the boat was carrying more than 300 people, some standing and others perched on wooden structures when it sank on the Mboko River. Now let's head to East Africa, where Kenyan officials have attended a military honors ceremony for General Francis Omondi Ogola, the Defense Forces chief killed in a helicopter crash. Ogola and 9 other senior officers were killed when their helicopter went down shortly after takeoff in a remote forested area of northwestern Kenya. The family said in a statement that a funeral will be held on Sunday at Ogala's home in Siaya in the west of the country, followed by a memorial service in a Nairobi suburb on April 26. Businesses in major towns and cities across Uganda have reopened after a 4-day strike against high taxes and a newly enforced revenue collection system. Now, the action was launched by the Federation of Uganda Traders Association last Tuesday and spread from the capital Kampala to other parts of the country. However, representatives of shopkeepers met with President Yoweri Museveni, who directed that all penalties should be suspended by the tax body for the meantime to give room for wider consultations. Now up north, the first round of Mauritania's presidential election will take place on June 29th, with a possible second round on July 14th. Outgoing president, 67-year-old Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, is expected to be the clear favorite in the election, though he has not yet announced his candidacy. Ghazouani has been at the helm of the vast West African country since 2019 and provided stability in the Sahel region, which faces rising jihadism. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. I'm Darshan Usman. Thank you for watching.
You're still watching Breakfast Extra here on News Central TV. Now, we brought you sports, we brought you the news, and it's time for us to bring you our Weekend Warrior for this week. Now, there's no surprises on this episode of the Weekend Warrior that our warrior is none other than Nigerian chess champion, and that is Tunde Onakoya. He has broken the world record for the longest chess marathon after playing unbeaten for more than 58 hours in New York City's Times Square to raise money for underprivileged children via his foundation, Chess in Slums Africa.
Now, Tunde Onakoya, who's 29, embarked on his marathon session on Wednesday, hoping to raise $1 million for children's education across Africa through the record attempt. The initiative aims to distribute 1 million chess sets to impoverished communities in partnership with the U.S. non-profit, The Gift of Chess. And the funds are intended to support chess education and enrich the lives of millions of children facing poverty.
And he had set out to play the royal game for 58 hours, but continued until he reached 60 hours on Saturday, surpassing the current chess marathon record of 56 hours, 9 minutes and 37 seconds achieved in 2018 by Norwegians Halvard Hag Flatibo and Serge Fakenstad.
The Guinness World Records organization has yet to publicly comment about Onakoya's attempt. it sometimes takes like weeks for the organization to actually confirm any new record. Now, Onakoya played against Sean Martinez, an American chess champion, in line with Guinness World Records guidelines that any attempt to break the record must be made by 2 players who would play continuously for the entire duration.
Now, for every hour of game that was played, Onakoya and his opponent got only 5 minutes break. Now, the breaks were sometimes grouped together, and Onakoya used them to catch up with the enthusiastic crowd of Nigerians and New Yorkers cheering him on. Now, Onakoya is well known in Nigeria, of course, where he launched the Chess in Slums project in 2018 in Ikorodu on the outskirts of Lagos, which is a commercial hub and capital of Nigeria.
I remember those efforts. They were grand, they were noble. Now, Chess in Slums Africa offers often marginalized young people, many of whom are not in school, homeless and also living on the streets, or work to help their families, a space to learn to play chess. More than 10 million children, that's school-age children, are not in schools in Nigeria, one of the highest numbers per country in the world.
Yes, and to that effect, a total of $22,000 was raised within the first 20 hours of the attempt, according to Taiwo Adeyemi, who says the support has been overwhelming from Nigerians in the U.S., global leaders, celebrities, and even hundreds of passerbys right there at the Times Square in Nigeria. Meanwhile, Times Square in New York City.
Judith. Oh, yeah, okay, cool.
Meanwhile, the president, and that's President Bola Tinubu, in a statement posted on X, congratulated Onakoya for setting a new world chess record and sounding the gong of Nigeria's resilience and, of course, our self-belief and ingenuity as well.
Well, when confirmed, Tunde Onakoya will join the League of Nigerians who have won the Guinness World Record in recent times. And these include a couple very familiar names. Hilda Effiong Basi, popularly known as Hilda Basi. She entered the Guinness World Record for the longest cooking marathon by an individual. I was there at one of those occasions. Hilda Basi made Nigerians proud on May 15, 2023 in the Cookathon held in Lagos here, not Times Square, which was set to last for 93 hours and 11 minutes.
Yes, if you can look on your screen there, you'd find a young man that we call Divine Ikubo, but he's popularly known as Rema. Rema also made the Guinness World Book of Records. Rema's hit song, Calm Down, made history as the first #1 hit on the official MENA chat, the world's first regional streaming chart. Mazino, calm down.
I see what you did there. Benga Ezekiel, who achieved the most skips in 1 minute on one leg. I will try. 278 skips. Breaking his own record of 265 and the most double under skips in 1 minute on one leg at 144, beating the previous record of 132 set by India's Himanshu Prajapati in 2021.
We've got Kefi as well. You just saw her on your screen pass, and she also was a dancer, and she beat the world record for the longest hour of dance ever that you've ever seen. And I remember back then it's just incredible. There's also in 2021, Folashade Oluwafemi-Ayo. She won the gold medal in an event at the 2020 World Powerlifting Competitions held in Biloxi, Georgia. At this event, she also set a new world record of 152.5 kg, and she competed at the 2022 Commonwealth Games again, where she won a gold medal in the heavyweight event.
Congratulations.
I know.
Now, Chukwuebuka Ezuga and Victor Richard Kipo are world record holders for the most consecutive passes of a football. Yes, people do that. Between the head and soul.
Do you know what that means?
I mean, no.
You nod it and the head, and then you catch it with your leg. So they had to do it for
252.
Yeah, times.
This of course, yeah. It happened in Ikotek,
I hate you for that. Why would you say that?
You know why I'm saying that.
Why would you say that?
It's your people.
There's also Vincent Okazie as well. He won his fifth. Let me tell you, fifth. Guinness World Record on March 3rd, 2023 to become the current holder of the most football soccer around the world tricks, and that's 71 times. That means when your arms are linked and it's going round the arm.
Oh, the hoop of the arm.
Yeah, the hoop of the arm, yeah.
Also, there's Bose Omolayo, became the new Guinness World Record holder in 2021 when she made the heaviest power lift by a female in the 79-kilogram category at 144 kilograms.
Look at her, look at her. Isn't she just brilliant? There's also Chinonso Miracle Eze achieved the fastest time to 1,000 touches while balancing another ball on the head and broke the Guinness World Records holder for most consecutive football touches in 1 minute while balancing a ball on his head in October of 2021. That's him right there.
Who comes up with these things?
I don't know, Mazino.
I can pretty much just break any record if I make it up. Peter Aho also became one of the bowlers from Nigeria to break the Guinness World Record after taking 5 wickets and a hat-trick in a T20I game, and also holds the record for best bowling figures in T20Is, claiming 6 wickets for 5 runs against Sierra Leone in October 2021.
Oh, yes, indeed. And there's also Mayo Omobo Oriowo. He broke the Guinness World Record for creating the largest photo book in September 2021. The photo book, done in collaboration with the JT agency, I beg your pardon, and with the federal government's effort, is 60.84 square meters, all right, and was a recreation of a photo collection titled Discover Nigeria. So once again, congratulations to Nigeria, and better yet, Africa's chess maestro, and that is Tunde Onakoya. You are our weekend warrior. Congratulations to you.
Can you play chess?
You want to? It's okay.
I tried learning.
Yeah.
I'm raising that up because it's such a mental game.
Yeah, it's such a mental game. So the knight goes in the L shape. The pawns only move.
You now.
Huh?
Now I'm about to fall my own hand. The pawns move that.
No, they only move forward. They don't go back.
Forward, not back.
I think the kings can go back and forth. The queen. Yeah.
The queen is the. Let me not show myself.
I beg ya.
But it's a very interesting game, and congratulations to Tunde again, especially that he's doing this very nobly for providing education to kids who are out of school. He started this a long time ago, and I have come across him. I think in Oshodi at one time, putting together children. He started this from Ikorodu.
Yes, there we are. And also there are many superstars who were there. We saw AG Baby, not my baby. He was there, as well as Davido was there as well, an Afrobeat star, Davido. You're also downing him his 30 GB necklace there, as you can see him wearing on the screen. I know. There was also former presidential aspirant there, and that was none other than Showore Omoyele. He was also there at the event. You see him there extending a handshake. And there were many Nigerians who were there as well. The Nigerian community came out to celebrate him. They were all, having, of course, jollof rice was plenty.
Is there ever such a gathering without jollof rice?
And not to forget his opponent there, Sanchez Martinez is also a chess maestro as well, and they were just there together, just playing the game for 60 hours. That is a long time. Can you mentally do something for 60 hours?
I can ride a bike for 60 hours.
I know, that's right.
Let's talk about the fact that the money that he's raised, how much, $22,000
so far,
is going to kids and their education.
Absolutely.
Education. Noble effort. I think that's the best thing to do, best way to actually run a marathon or of any kind, break a record of any kind, to bring attention to, well, one aspect of our society where people need aid. Brilliant.
And he's been doing fantastically well. Congratulations. I cannot wait to where there was also a venue here in Lagos as well, a restaurant where people, a viewing center, we were playing chess. I wanted to go, but it was Friday night and I had a show Saturday morning, so I couldn't attend.
What we give up just to be here during the weekend for you guys. No more party life for us.
No more weekends for us.
How did we sign this contract?
I don't know. One day I woke up and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. But Mazino is the single. I'm the single one.
It's fantastic. In any case, we enjoy being here every single weekend to bring you all the information that you guys need to hear about from all through the week. Thank you also for being there. We've got one more thing coming our way. Our focus in Africa is on a very interesting topic. It's on the Liberian instance and the institution or suggestion, a vote, let's put it that way, to establish war crimes court in Liberia. So much has happened in that country, and we'll get to find out in detail from our guests when we get, or I think that we have
our guest is here.
Now, let's tell you about it in any case. Now, in Liberia after two civil wars in 1989 and also 2003, which killed up to 250,000 people. No one has been tried in Liberia for crimes committed during its two civil wars. Now, the first of which ran from 1989 to 1997 and the second from 1999 to 2003.
Yeah, and former rebel commanders Alia Kosia and Kunti Kamara have been tried and convicted for war crimes in Switzerland and France, respectively. And another former commander, and that's Martina Johnson, is awaiting trial in Belgium. Now, if you remember, the former Liberian president, Charles Taylor, was sentenced to 50 years in prison for crimes committed in neighboring Sierra Leone after a hearing at a special court at The Hague. His son as well, Charles Cherky Taylor Jr., was tried in the U.S. and sentenced to 97 years in jail for torture during Liberia's civil war.
Now, civil society has been calling for the creation of a court since the end of the war, when thousands of people were mutilated and children were even recruited as soldiers and sex slaves. Joining us now from Liberia to talk about the vote we have Aaron Ware, Director, Duco Institute for Social and Economic Research, and also we have, I've just been informed that Aaron Ware is not available, but we have Gerard Konyene, Deputy Head of Newsroom, Front Page Africa, Liberia. You are welcome. Good to have you, Gerard.
Thank you. I'm honored to be part of the breakfast this morning.
It's wonderful to have you join us, Gerald. Many thanks for you for coming on. Let's get started very quickly and give us an overview so far on the update there on the courts. The Senate has now voted to establish a war crime court. Give us more insight on what this move will mean for Liberia.
Thank you. So, as you said, since the end of the war, nobody has been tried in Liberia for war crimes or for any crimes committed. And there have been efforts by the past parliamentary body, the 54th legislature, but it didn't pass in the Senate. So this one, the resolution emanated from the House of Representatives and was forwarded to the Liberian Senate. You know, the legislature here is a bicameral parliamentary body that consists of the House and the Senate. So the Senate overwhelmingly endorsed the resolution from the House calling on the President, Joseph Boakai, to institute measures for the establishment of the War Crimes Court.
All right,
so
Gerald.
This is a huge step.
Yes, Gerald, we also have Aaron Ware joining us, so let's
Aaron is back now. Aaron, can you hear us?
Okay.
Aaron, are you there?
Aaron is not there anymore. But in any case, Gerald, back to you, Gerald. Now, why exactly is a war crimes court important in Liberia?
This is important in Liberia because Liberians experience one of the worst civil wars in Africa's history. About 250,000 people, an estimated 250,000 people lost their lives, decimated the economy, destroyed infrastructures, and the scars of the wars are still visible. And nobody has been tried, nobody has been questioned for any crimes committed during the war. So this is very important for the victims and for advocates of the court. It is so important.
Right. Now, you just said that it's important. Give us an idea of the number of war crimes, the perpetrators of these war crimes that are still out there mingling in regular society that have not been apprehended yet.
Okay, I will not be exact because that means I have to go back to the TRC report. But the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that was established right after the war, in fact, it was part of the agreement that ended the war. And the agreement was signed in Accra, Ghana in 2003. And it called for the setup of the TRC to investigate those crimes. And the recommendations was that one of the recommendations, the clauses in the recommendation call for the setup of the War Crimes Code to end impunity. And I'm not exact, but we have more than 20 people that committed serious crimes. not everyone who participated in the war should be tried or was recommended to be tried by the special court when it is set up, but those who committed serious crime, who bear the greatest responsibility of the war, like Charles Taylor, like Prince Johnson, and those rebel leaders. Most of them, they are powerful in Liberia currently. Some are parliamentarians. They serve in parliament, and some also are officials of government, of influential people in society. They are wealthy business people. So they are all in Monrovia and playing key roles in the government and private sector. So the setting up of this court for the victims, who most of them are still alive, they feel that it will bring justice.
Okay. I'm told that Aaron is back with us again. Now, Aaron, if you are with us, please make sure you have your device on mute. All right, Aaron, thank you very much. Aaron,
very good, very good.
This question is for you now. Would this be the first time that any effort has been made to try and bring people or perpetrators of these crimes to book, whether inside of Liberia? Well, outside of Liberia, we know that this has been done with Charles Taylor's the Hague instance. But inside of Liberia, would this be the first time any effort has been put forward?
Yes, this is the recent work we've seen in both the House's representative and the Senate is the latest, and I would say the most deliberate actions we've seen in the last 15 years since the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report was released to have a resolution, a joint resolution emanating from the House, and then with the concurrence that we're seeing with the Senate, this is the first time since the TRC report was released in 15 years. Yes.
Right. Let's talk about the efforts. Right. Would this be away from efforts? How has the legacy of war crimes in Liberia affected efforts towards reconciliation and peace building? I want to start with you, Gerald, because I understand you are in Liberia at the moment.
So I was not really getting you clear on the internet. Please repeat.
Gerald, I understand your network is giving us a bit of a glitch there. So, Aaron, if you'd be so kind to answer the question, the legacy of war and it's how it's forestall reconciliation in Liberia.
So the legacy of war. Let me, for the purpose of this interview, clarify that I'm actually a resident in Liberia. I'm based in Liberia. I'm in the last few months of my PhD status, so just so it doesn't show that I'm speaking as a diasporan, if you like. It's important to clarify that. So in terms of the legacy of war in Liberia, there are so many different layers. One of the legacy of the civil war is that violence is being normalized in Liberia. You have kids engaged into acts of violence that is a carry on from the period of the war, because none of these acts committed in wartime has been prosecuted in peacetime. Secondly, there is a correlation between post-war corruption and wartime impunity. You find a minister of government think it's okay to get away with 150,000 because someone who committed some of the most horrific massacres in Liberia has been elected into the House of Representatives. Some have been elected into the House of Senate. And then you see the current interference in the judiciary, where major cases have been interfered with by members of some politicians in government. So at multiple layers in post-war Liberia, you see the legacy of the conflict, notions of impunity, is this continual interference in the judiciary and everyday life. You see that legacy in different shapes and forms. So yes, in terms of legacy of the war, having an enduring presence in impact in the present is all there. Yeah.
Now let's talk about the influence of external bodies or international bodies when it comes to the vote. Was there any influence from international bodies for the realization of this vote by the senators?
There has been there has been some involvement. Some development partners have expressed a lot of interest in support of the passage of the War Crimes Court. The U.S. embassy in Liberia has been involved. The U.S. ambassador at large on war crimes, Ambassador Van Schaik, has also been involved. I mean, her portfolio in the U.S. government, in a way, suggests that she's involved and in contact with countries coming out of conflict. But the full extent to which the involvement has been, there has been a lot of speculation in terms of the extent to which the U.S. may be influencing a certain outcome. I cannot speak to that. That is very speculative. But yes, the U.S. has been involved, has been supporting the government of Liberia. That is mutually beneficial. Again, some of the interest of the U.S. is articulated in how development aid to Liberia is being squandered through corruption. Earlier, I talked about the correlation with wartime impunity and post-war corruption. In a way, the U.S. involvement is, in a way, concerned with how meaningful development assistance to Liberia is being squandered through acts of corruption. Corruptions, as you mentioned earlier about legacy, yeah, I see corruption as a big legacy issue. And will the issue of war crimes address some of this? I think so, because attached to the resolution, if you look at the resolution signed in both houses, there is an amendment to include a domestic court for economic crimes. So it's not just a process concerned with investigating Civil War era atrocities. It's also concerned with economic crimes. In the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report, economic crimes is included as one of the measures. I mean, the argument there is that the Liberian Civil War was prolonged because of the informal economy that was created. International businesses were free from issues of taxation because they could engage into mining rubber, they could engage into mining of iron ore and pay little or no taxes. So the Truth and Reconciliation Commission included that it is important to look at the economic dimension of the Civil War and not just the dimension that had to do with the killing, the recruitment, and the rape of women in Civil War. There was an economic dimension. So all of these are a major element within which the War Crimes Code is been designed. Yeah.
Right. Gerald, I understand you're back now. Are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Good. Fantastic. Gerald, this Senate have now voted to establish a war crime court. How are Liberians taking the news? Are they excited for this new development? Do they want to see it, or do they want more?
So it is a split opinion. Certain group of people want this war crimes court to be established in Liberia, and some feel that it will derail the reconciliation drive of the country. But as I said, those people who will be appearing before the court if it is established, most of them are powerful people. They are politicians in government, and they are politicians at the legislature. They have huge followers. So if they are against the establishment of the court, definitely their people, their followers are not in favor of it. So it's a split opinion, even though a huge portion of the population want the court to be established, while still some followers of these people who are still powerful, who committed huge crimes during the war, who bear huge responsibility, their followers are not in favor of the court. So it's a split opinion here in Liberia.
Okay, so still on you, Gerald. Now, you also mentioned that there are people in powerful positions who perhaps also committed war crimes during the civil wars. Now, if this goes on, if we have this court and it takes these people to account, how will this shape or shake the polity in Liberia? Isn't there going to be another rancor up ahead in the future because of this shakeup?
Some analysts are suggesting that, of course, there will be some problems. There will be problems associated with the establishment of the code, especially when those people influential people that are arrested and or that are taken before the court. But the backers of the court claim that the government, backed by the international community, the UN, the United States, the EU, will ensure that the security measures are put in place for the smooth operation of the court. In fact, the resolution called for the Liberian government to liaise with the United Nations. Similar situation in Sierra Leone. It should be a United Nations back court. And they should also liaise with the United States government, the EU, for more support. So I think the legislature, they are aware of this, and they are suggesting, and the resolution clearly point out that it should not be only a Liberian endeavors. There should be external powers that will provide support just in case when there is any problem, so that observers are very keen on what could happen, the implications of the establishment of the court.
Right.
Right. Now, let me come to you, Aaron, right? And let's talk about the challenges. The challenges that have been faced to bringing these perpetrators to book. Will this court solve it?
That's a very good question. To begin with, allow me to make a rough comparison with Liberia and Sierra Leone. In 1999, the Lome Agreement was signed, and 2 years later, Sierra Leone had a special court set up, started in 2001. Liberia had the Accra Peace Agreement signed in 2003, and we are now talking 21 years later for the establishment of the court. You see in a comparison with Sierra Leone, you see in the comparison with Liberia, a shorter interval in getting a court established, whereas in Liberia, the interval is more than 2 decades. So here we are dealing with the issue of time. We're also dealing with the issue of evidence gathering. And we're also dealing with our aging population that experienced the war, aging population in the sense of testimonies, evidence as part of it. So one of the first challenges the court will have to grapple with we have to be the issue of evidence, going back to massacres committed in 1990. That's 34 years ago. You know, how do we engage with that? The second challenge I would like to highlight here is the complexity of the Liberian Civil War. Why did people who never committed act of murder before took up gun and was involved with murder? This question comes to mind in the sense that every society going through the experience that we are about to embark on is expected to come out better than it was. In October last year, Sierra Leone came to the brink of another major political violence, if you follow. But this was a country that entered two transitional justice mechanisms. It had a truth commission running simultaneously. It also had a special court for Sierra Leone. That raises a fundamental question with how did these processes impact on the Sierra Leonean society? How did Sierra Leone emerge from these experiences? Did they come out as a better nation? These are very searching questions that I'm throwing out there for Liberia, because part of my formulation of this question is to really troubleshoot what I see as a simplistic discussion on issues of justice and accountability in Liberia. On the one hand, you see civil society demonizing perpetrators. On the other hand, it's trying to create a picture that shows that, yeah, this is just a situation of victim-perpetrator. No one is trying to interrogate further that some people took up arms because they saw their parents being killed. Some people took up arms because their ethnic group was being persecuted. And some people took up arms because they saw their neighbors pointing them out. So we're dealing with layers of complications in the Liberian conflict. And I believe that we will emerge a better society if we're able to have a conversation that is all-encompassing and not a conversation that reduces the society into simple binaries as victim and perpetrator. The war wasn't as complex as that. So what I'm trying to highlight here is that there has to be dimensions of a difficult conversation. How did Liberia sink so low, where 250,000 persons were killed? How were communities complicit in some of the most horrific acts of war crimes? Some of these people will never be brought. Some of them will never appear in court. You may have a few persons appear in court and may be put away permanently, but how does that address the fundamental questions of what really happened in Liberia and why?
Gerald, do you have anything to add to this answer as well in terms of challenges that the court might face?
Oh, yes. He talked about one of the important things there is evidence gathering. The war, since the war ended, as you said, it has stayed on over 30 years. Some of the crimes are committed over 30 years. So presenting evidence for events that took place more than 30 years ago, definitely it will be a challenge. And then what now? Let's look at the reconciliation process. Will try these influential people in the community. Some are senators, some are representatives, some are ministers, and they have impacted a lot of people, taking them, trying them, incarcerated them. What will happen in the community? Will it be something that will bring about reconciliation? Will Liberians say, yes, there should be a closure, let's move in? Will it not offset the community? Will it not bring about division among the counties? Because remember, the war was tribal war. There were people being killed because they were part of certain families, certain tribes. So will taking these influential people out of the county, out of the community, will it lead to more division? So these are some of the questions that are being asked about the challenges of this court. But then again, people are saying that it happened in other countries, neighboring Sierra Leone, and they are moving on. Beyond the court, the TRC recommendations call for apology, public a remembrance, a garden of remembrance. Maybe it could be a museum to be set up just to show some of the legacy of the war, to remind the future that it is what happened in our country and it should not happen again. So people who are calling for this code, they are just saying it is not only about the code alone, but it goes beyond. So yes, there will be challenges, and it just depends on how the government can partner with the partners, the international community, to ensure that it ends successfully. But know that there will be some challenges.
Gerald, many thanks so much for doing this with us. Gerald T. Koine is a Deputy Head of Newsroom, Front Page Africa, Liberia, as well as Aaron Ware is a Director at DECO Institute for Social and Economic Research. And we're talking about Liberia Senate's vote to establish a war crime court in Liberia.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So indeed, we have come to, well, the end of yet again another package for the weekend here on Breakfast Extra. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for staying with us since yesterday, that's Saturday, but for us it started since Monday last week.
And it's about to be another cycle again. I am exhausted. Thinking about it is exhausting.
Fantastic in any case, at the end, the relief that comes. Thank you very much once again, and we look forward to having you guys back here again on Saturday. Until then, I want to say goodbye, and always make sure that you make it a date.
Good night. Oh, goodbye.